Deportations are one matter. Making sure illegal aliens stay gone is quite another. That latter part is what the Trump administration is focusing on now that illegal border crossings are at historic lows. The idea is to prosecute and imprison as many single adult illegal aliens as possible before deporting them. Todd Bensman is here to explain the importance of this new strategy. Todd is a senior national security fellow for the Center for Immigration Studies. Todd, thanks for being here.
Great to be here. Thank you. I appreciate it. Yeah.
Great. So why is the prison first, deportation later model more beneficial for U.S. national security than merely sending them all back as soon as possible?
Well, the idea, of course, is, first they had to stop the mass releases into the country. They did that on the first day and replaced it with policies that required immediate detention and deportation of everybody. The problem is that they were a little bit worried about a resurgence of people deported who would try again. So to fix that, they just started sending them through federal prosecution for improper entry. That is a federal crime. It starts out as a misdemeanor on the first offense, or maybe a felony with between 6 months and 2 years in prison. But the key thing is deportation immediately after that short prison term with a conviction on your record. And if you try to come in again, they step it up to a second tier of prosecution for re-entry of a person who has already been deported, which can bring 10 years in prison and sometimes even 20 years in prison. And so that's when people start to draw the line. I'm not even going to try to come across. And that's the point of it. It's kind of a three-legged stool.
And you have a new article out about this at the Daily Wire, and it seems you were interviewing some people as well, those who were thinking of crossing and now are saying, well, I don't want to get caught and spend 2 years in prison, right, and then just end up where I am right now. So is it that word of mouth that the administration is really banking on to make an example of those who are already here, who already tried and got caught, make an example of them so that that word spreads and then more people don't try and attempt it?
Yeah, so with all the stuff that's going on with immigration and the border right now in the last few months, I kind of missed the fact that they started doing this. I think a lot of us missed that they were doing it. So I was in Juarez just a week and a half ago, and I learned it from the immigrants. I'm like, why aren't you crossing? And they said, well, because they'll put us in prison. They're prosecuting us. So it had already spread, at least to Juarez and probably far beyond the word of that. That is a very unpleasant consequence, far more unpleasant than to just merely be deported because they're thinking, oh, well, I'll just come back. They are, and this is, by the way, happening not just in the Del Rio, in the Texas federal courts of Texas, but in every state in the country. Anywhere that there's a judicial district and a federal court, you can find this happening. It's happening thousands of times, and they're constantly spreading that program all around the country, even to the northern border. So it's a major pillar of the Trump administration's uh, overall strategy about the border, which, by the way, is for the most part sealed now.
Yeah, well, it makes perfect sense, right? Under Biden, the reason why it ratcheted up as high as it did, right, was the word of mouth. Everyone said, hey, I got across, even if they caught me, they let me go right into the interior of the country. And I signed up, got all these benefits, got put up in a luxury hotel. Like, it's great. Come join me, right? And so that increased the swell at the border. So now we're trying to do the opposite. Now, this also plays into a criticism I've heard largely coming from the left, trying to say that the president is not living up to his promises. And then even from those on the right who are trying to make that argument as well. They'll say that the deportation rate is not nearly as high as what was promised. It is akin to previous administrations. So A, is there any truth to that? And B, do you think this strategy that you're talking about plays into that?
A little bit, because as I point out in the Daily Wire piece, obviously, if people are serving 6 months to 2 years or even 10 years in prison before we can deport them, there's going to be a delayed statistic, right? It's not going to be reported right away. And this is happening thousands of times across the country. So there is a little bit of a delayed gratification there, as I point out. But um, that's not the only reason why we're not bringing the deportation numbers up. Part of it is because it's like the border was a one-way road into the country, but to go back the other way is far more difficult legally. People are involved in different processes and due processes and asylum claims, et cetera, and it takes time to wait for them to uh, become illegal enough with a removal order on them for us to go pick them up. So it's a difficult proposition any way you look at it. But I do believe that the administration will use the $170 billion that they are earmarking in the upcoming budget for detention space, for more officers, for more deportation space and officers and aircraft and everything else so that they can increase the infrastructure necessary to bring far more people out of the country. Right now, they've had to scope it pretty narrowly to criminal aliens because the Biden administration pretty much dismantled the whole machine and the parts are laying all over the place. So they got to put it all together and then expand on it.
Yeah, definitely. And then also one issue that really hamstrung President Trump in his first term, he accomplished much, right? But there was a lot of issues with his own administration. It felt like he was just having to fight everyone left, right, and center. And that's because, what we call the deep state, right? And so you have that bureaucratic issue at the heart of governance. And so that really was an issue, an impediment in the first term. But now with President Trump's second term, he learned a lot, right? And so we see that same mistake is not being made, right? And so we see at DHS, we have Christine Noem. And so you point out in your Daily Wire piece, and I'll quote it here. You say, DHS officials feel this part of the strategy is so important that federal agents who fail to send criminal referrals and U.S. attorneys who fail to accept such referrals will be explained to headquarters why they aren't. So do you think that's important as well, that this isn't just something that Trump says, oh, this is great, we should do this, that it's actually being internally reinforced at every level? And do you think that will make this strategy very successful as we move forward?
Yes, it already has. They're basically holding everyone accountable, especially the U.S. attorneys' offices, because, previously they weren't interested. This is kind of nickel and dime petty stuff to these U.S. attorneys. They want these big glory cases, and, I kind of don't blame them. On the other hand, they're the ones that are responsible for bringing these charges, and they have to handle these charges, and it's going to take up time and space. And so the administration wants to keep the flame on high, to keep the water boiling, so to speak. And I do believe they will make sure that every U.S. attorney is prioritizing these cases. I was down in the Del Rio sector, Del Rio, Texas, across from Acuna. That sector has a federal courthouse right there in Del Rio, and I spent several days inside witnessing these prosecutions. They bring in one case, they brought in 21, in another case, they brought in 9. And that's happening across the country. It adds up. That's a lot of people. And they're constantly ramping that up. So it's happening there.
That it is. And just last question for you as we wrap it up tonight. I know you have a new piece out at Town Hall as we're speaking. It's Friday, and it's about Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene and a new bill. So if you could just quickly recap that for the audience, what do they need to know about it?
Yeah, the congresswoman out of Georgia, put together a bill that would require that the government publicize the number of special interest aliens that cross the border. Those are the foreign nationals who are coming from countries where there are Islamic terrorist organizations operating. So if you're from one of those countries, you get tagged special interest aliens, but this was all under the cover of darkness for 20 years. They've been processing them in. We're supposed to be interviewing them. We're supposed to be vetting them. But nobody really has a handle on what was happening because it's not public. So Taylor Greene is saying, look, we need to start making this public on a monthly basis. It's a bill. It's a good bill. It's a good start. And in my town hall piece, because I've written the book on special interest aliens, I suggest a couple of amendments that would be good for it. It's a great first start. I think they could add to it a few things. And I think that Democrats should get behind this because Democrats have always been in favor of vetting special interest aliens. This has always been a bipartisan issue, but she's taking all kinds of heat from the left as this thing moves forward, and I think that's just flat wrong. This is a bipartisan America national security issue.
Well, Todd, keep up the great work as always, and thanks for joining us.
Sure thing. Thanks for having me.
For all our viewers asking where One America News is heading in the future, we would like to introduce you to OAN Live. OAN Live is the best way to stay up to date on all of the hard-hitting, straight-shooting, national and international headlines. And the best part is, OAN Live is only $4.99 per month. All the credible, honest, unbiased reporting One America News offers at a fraction of the cost of cable. Just go to OANN.com to easily sign up for OAN Live and stay informed.